On another Let's Talk with the Doc. I'm excited to be here this evening. Always, I am excited because God has been good, and I'm always privileged to have some special people joining me on my conversation to hear their story. And everybody's story is uniquely different, and that is why we need to hear each person's story because no two stories alike. And I have with me this evening on Let's Talk with the Doc, Minister Margaretta McCleary, and I can't wait to hear what her story is. All right, so we're gonna hear it together. So thank you for joining. Hang in there. When I come back, I will be talking to Minister McCleary. ORB Ministry presents Let's Talk with the Doc. Grace Without Borders podcast. A thought for you. Ask Pastor. And a whole lot more. You never know what's next or who will join the conversation. All right, my friends. So here we are, and I have with me Minister Margaretta McCleary. And welcome to Let's Talk with the Doc. Good to have you joining me tonight.
Yes, sir. Good night, Bishop. How are you doing? It's
I am
nice to
doing
be
good.
here.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you are here, and I'm excited to hear your story. And as we go on tonight, I'm going to learn a little bit more about who is this lady and what is her ministry, what the Lord has called her to do, and what are some of the ups and downs. But before we get into the deep things of your story, tell us a little bit about who you are. Where were you born? Do you have siblings? What was thing like? What were things like in your beginning of days when you just know that there's Margarita? What were things like for you?
Well, I am originally from Jamaica, and I was born in Kingston, Jamaica. As
Okay,
I don't know how a lot of much about it because I
real
spent most of
real
my
real,
uh,
real Kingston, Jamaica.
real Kingston. They used to say you talk, you have a slang that the Kingstonian they say they were tricky, and we have a slang when we
Okay,
talk.
all right,
I
all
don't
right,
know about that, but that's
all
what
right.
was said. I do have siblings. I am the eldest of six. Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
the one that break the mold. Thank God for that. And then the others follow brothers and sisters. So it's a balance of girls and boys, which is, good. I do have children. I've got five of those of my own, young adults and adults alike. And so I've been blessed.
Okay, so you're a sibling of six,
Yeah.
and you have five of your own.
Yes.
So you were trying to match. You were
Yeah.
trying to match yours when you were trying to match yours.
I think that's probably what I was headed for without even knowing.
Without even knowing. Okay, all right, subconsciously.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Born in Kingston.
Yeah.
We're in
And
Kings. We're in Kingston.
let's just say Kingston 11.
Kingston 11.
Yeah,
Okay,
I am
that
wanted. I don't know a lot about the city at all because I came here when I was a teenager. But the lifestyle that I had there, I wasn't allowed to go beyond the gates.
okay.
I was kind of sheltered, and that get into that story a little bit more. That's not a great. It wasn't a great experience, but that was pretty much what it was. You just go to school, come home, and go to church and come home, and that's it.
So
Nothing else.
so you were born in a Christian home in a where
Yeah,
your parents.
pretty much most of my childhood years is I've grown up around the Christian faith, the apostolic faith. I've grown up around most of my family are ministers, females. A lot of them are ministers, and they're migrating to England. Most of them are in England now. Some is in the United States, and then there's me, a couple of us here in Canada.
Okay, so you're born in you say in the apostolic faith.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
all right.
I'm from the New Testament body, so there's a little bit of
Okay, so
going on with
so
that one.
um, what were things like in the because I the apostolic faith is what we call Jesus only back in Jamaica. Was that what the
Yes,
same one?
yes, yes.
Okay, so how long did you spend in that or
I
organization?
spent pretty much all my I came here when I was 16, so I was in it until then, but I wasn't saved in it. I was just going there, and it was pretty intense, rigid, strict. Lord of mercy. Couldn't You weren't allowed to play on Sunday, you weren't allowed to go to the gate on Sunday, you weren't allowed to watch TV on Sunday. You weren't Oh Lord, you were just like in a cage. You couldn't smile, you couldn't do nothing on Sunday, or you're going straight to,
Oh
not
wow,
heaven, but
oh
it
wow.
was
So
really
so it
tight.
was it was that rigid.
It was that rigid. It was back in the days, it was that rigid.
I
Oh my
didn't,
God.
I didn't, I didn't know it was. I mean, I knew it was rigid in terms of dressing and
Oh
conduct and
yes.
stuff like that, but I didn't know it was that rigid to that your Sunday was you couldn't do so many things. I didn't know that part of it.
Oh yeah. And when I used to go to church with my aunt, I had to sit in the back because you're not saved, so you have to stay in the back, and the ones that are saved would go a little further up to the front. I couldn't go without your hat. Your skirt had to be long. It's all
Oh
that
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah. You got to have long sleeves on and
Yep.
all of that stuff.
No jewelry.
Everything was fully covered. No
That's it.
perming, no nothing, no all of
Back
that
in the days,
stuff.
I was a little bit more liberal.
I think I'm not sure if this is the Pentecostal, but I know one church you could even wear open toe shoes at some places. I don't know if they were one.
I don't know. I never had an open toe shoe. Probably they probably were back then. They probably were.
All
Oh
right,
Lord.
all right. Well, so okay, so you get out of that. So tell me what your story has been as you grew up going to school. You got to go to school, come back in. You're so sheltered. What was it like for you going? When you went to school, did you feel like you were different under pressure? Were you not free to do what your little classmates were
No.
doing?
Yeah. So growing up in the Caribbean, it was, let's just say, what of the introduction about abuse. And a lot of people says, I'm so glad that that's what they did to us. I can literally say I was abused. We were abused. Not just me. My sibling and I were abused. The individual that did it, they have passed on. They have passed on. So your parents would migrate to the United States or wherever they are, and they would take care of you, and they leave you in the guardianship of your family. So as I was left in the guardianship of one set of guardian that my mom left with us, and she took care of that person would look after us, they took the liberty to physically abuse you. Bad. Then they would move you. I remember one of the first experience was one lady. She was a seventh day. She was a seventh day. She was an older lady. She had one son. And remember those bed you had back home where you had the coil.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one. She would
Coil
take the
coil spring. I
mattress.
remember that.
Yeah, she took the mattress off, and we would have to sleep on that, and she and her son would take the bed. Yeah, and I remember also I had long, thick hair, black, just long and thick, and she would use coconut oil. I remember that. She wouldn't wash it. She get the coconut oil and she would press it so it would be stink, just reeking.
Oh wow.
And then she and her son would get the best of everything. And then afterwards, when it's time for school, this I'll never forget. Unfortunately, I kind of love bananas now too. She would take the bananas and she would crush it because I was the eldest of the other boys were small,
Mm-hmm.
and she would crush it and put it in a bottle with water, and I'd take that to school for lunch.
So
Yeah.
you were living with the person you were
This is like
living
one
with,
of the guardian before the
just
family.
a
This is a
guardian.
guardian. Yes.
Guardian.
So when the family found out what she was doing, they moved me to another guardian. And this guardian now was in the apostolic faith. So you figure, they
So
know
where
her.
where where were you why did you have to be with guardian?
because my mom had migrated
Oh,
to the
okay,
United
okay, oh,
States,
okay,
right?
okay,
Yeah, so
okay,
she
okay,
migrated to make a better life for us,
okay,
So
okay,
you
okay,
trusted
okay,
family
okay.
and family to oversee you, and they got a guardian into few them, and so forth. They're taking care of the kids, and I remember this the lady that took care of me, the other lady that they took us, my brothers and I to, she was even worse
Hmm.
than the other one because she was Sunday worshiper. She went to my aunt's church and everything. And I remember one of the worst thing that ever happened was one day my brother and I we weren't allowed to go to the front of the yard because she used to take care of some children from children aids or something like that. And these individual she wasn't allowed to take in children outside of what the government had given her. So we weren't allowed
Hmm.
to go to the front of the yard. We had to stay in the back. So one day my we went to the front and she found out. Someone told her they saw us at the gate standing. So when she came home, she took my brother and she put him on the bed, coil mattress again, but this time the mattress, and she tied him across and she beat the daylight out of him.
Wow.
That's how we get. And then when they came for visit, now you can't tell your mom this because you can't write whatever you take. My mom when the government come for a visit, she would lock us in the toilet outside, the three of us, and we'd end
Really?
up staying there overnight. So
Really?
that's yeah, that was bad.
Hold on a
So
second.
when my brother, my youngest brother, took really sick, and my family found out, and they said, this can't happen. They come over and they got us, right? So I'm like, oh yeah, we're in heaven now. This is great. So one day, the reality came. I was walking in the yard. I was singing this song. I'll never forget this. And the song says, "I don't come here to milk cow. I come here to drink milk." That
Right?
was
Yep, I know that
I didn't
one.
know what it meant. I was just walking along singing, and they beat the daylight out of me.
Oh
It's
wow.
afterward I found out it meant like I didn't come here to work. I come here to eat, apparently, but I didn't know that. And that's when the other set of abuse started through family. They beat you till you would pass out, put you under the bed with the dogs. Um, you would,
So
I would
that
be
was
out.
your actual
That was
family
my
that's there.
actually blood family. That was blood family.
Wow.
My brothers would be required to, they have a big yard. So we have to sweep the entire, you have to sweep the entire yard. I have to clean the entire house. And if I got up and went to school and there was something not done in the house, they would send someone to bring me back to finish it. My aunt had a grain store and they would bring home the big bags with the grain. They would cut it up. And I don't know how I don't have a business of my own. And my brothers and I would have to make they would make a paste, a big paste, and put lemon inside of it. And we had to sit there and make up to 500 bags a night
Wow. Oh,
till
whoa.
we would fall asleep around the table, and we have school the next day. That's after you come
Wow.
in and do all the housework. And getting beats was just the thing to do. There's scars. You just said scars all over. And no one would be there to speak up for you. Nobody.
So did they have children of their own?
Yes, they
You
did.
said they have one son, right? They had one son.
No, this was my aunt, and she had older children, and her older children had grandchildren. So the older children, they would be assigned, except for two, they would not beat you, but the others were assigned to beat you.
Children were assigned to beat you.
No, our children, and they were older. They were older than we were. They were like my mom's
Wow.
age. So they were more
Wow.
like she was my grand aunt. So they were allowed to they beat you till you just kind of go limp. They would use, I remember one of the things they beat us with was, the tire from
I remember that the bus, we call
they
the bus
used
cock.
that.
You call it the bus cock in,
Yes, and they had
yeah.
a belt, a leather belt, that when they're gonna beat you, they put it together and then they pull it to go snap, 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 and they would use that to beat you. And when they hit you with it, the edges would take a piece of your
Yeah.
flesh out.
We know. I know those stories. I know those stories. We've seen kids who've been abused. That is kind of surprising to me. So how did how did that come to an end? Did they have to move you again, or you until
No,
when?
so
When
it
did that
came to an
cease?
end for me when my mom finally got me here to Canada. But by that time, I was just in a different place. I was just broken. I was just here. That was it.
How did you manage at school during that time? Because when under abuse, were you able to
Yeah.
focus? Were you
No,
able
there
to
was
still
no
learn?
focus. There was no focus because remember, if you are going, they would stop you from going to school and to do housework. It was not priority for you, but it was priority for. She had a daughter. I remember she had a daughter, and her daughter was allowed to go to high school to write the different levels. We were not allowed. I was not allowed to do that. My
That's
brothers were
interesting.
younger, so I was not allowed to do it. I was allowed to do the housework. Saturday cleaning, Sunday you don't do anything on Sundays. On Friday nights, I would come home Friday from school. I would be allowed. I'd come home. My the uniform we wore was thing called khaki material.
I know that
So I
stuff too.
remember my little hands. I had to stand on a little barrel or drum, and I'll be washing these clothes, and I have to wash it on a Friday because the tenants have to do it on a Saturday. So then my aunt would come home the Friday night, and I can't wring it dry, so I'd hang it on the line. She'd go out in the dark and she'd squeeze it, and the water would run down. And she said, "This is clean. This is," and Jamaican slang. And she would take the pins and release them one by one till they fall in the dirt,
Oh wow.
and you start it over again.
Oh
And that
wow.
was that was just it. School was not a thing. It was not going to
Wow.
happen. It was not
Wow.
a priority. It was
Wow.
That wasn't it. It was just nobody's here. They would tell you stuff like you don't have no parents, your mom run away and leave you, and that would just break your heart. So you kind of just gave up. You just exist,
So you
you
were
know.
you well again that was so long maybe people weren't able to communicate with parents and when they were abroad they couldn't
They had
communicate with them.
phones, but it was locked with keys.
Wow. Wow.
They would a
So
lock on
so
the key
that
on the
that's
phone.
deliberate abuse.
Deliberate. When my cousin got pregnant, I got beats. She got they beat me. They Her dad, I remember because we were staying, he kicked my brothers out of the house. He said if she left, and he said if she's not there, we can't stay. So they kicked us out and separate us. Then when she came back, then we were allowed to come back.
So did anybody when you grew up did anybody say anything to you about that? Did you have a conversation?
No,
How did that go? Did you just leave and did you talk back to them after you left? How did that unfold?
to be honest, when my mom finally had gotten us here, um, I wrote a letter and sent it to my mom about what's happening. Well, I didn't know we all need a stamp. The letter came back and they got that.
Uh oh. Uh oh.
So my mom never got the information. So when
So
I
so
came back,
you sent a letter and didn't know you need a stamp.
oh yeah, I did that. I felt so good. Then I came backwards. But when it came back, there was a funny thing. I remember when the letter came back, my aunt was so angry. But her husband said to her, "Why are you upset?" Because the other young person that she was taking care of did the same thing, except it made it because they put a stamp on it. And the parents said, because I saw I'm not the first of the person that they've done that to. We're not the first. So when I finally migrated to Canada, the only thing, which is really sad how it happened, um, and I have to go back to that story as I go into my testimony of how God kind of worked things out when I figured out how God was working. One day, my aunt said to me, my aunt from England is coming to Jamaica. She's there. She's here. Like, okay, you're gonna go downtown with her. No problem. We went downtown. Then she says, you're gonna go to school, you're gonna get your report. I went and got my report card. Then Friday she said, uh, go take a shower. We went and go bathe, took a bath. When I
Hmm.
came in, there was these clothes on the bed. But what I noticed that she had these clothes in the back of her Chesterfield or whatever you call it. And when she opened it, there were clothes that my mom had sent for my siblings and I with her name attached to it from we were kids. So they were no tiny. She never gave them to us.
So your mom sending clothes and you're not getting them.
Never got them. They were still wrapped with the tape around it with her name written on it, barrels that she would send. They never gave it to us. So I remember when they finally told me to take a shower. Now remember, I got two more brothers, and I am taking care of these brothers. We are close, we are tight. And I went to the airport. I didn't know where I was going. I just know I got in the car, got to the airport, and they said wave. They said you have to wave to your brothers, to your brother. I'm like, the person that was with me. What do you mean wave? I turned around. I saw my two little brothers standing on the top of the, if you know Jamaican airport,
That's
it's
oh
outside.
yeah. So you went on
They were waving to
they're on the
me,
gallery to wave you walking out and yeah.
and I was waving. I saw them waving these little small person, and that destroyed me for years. that image stayed with me. I felt like they were ripped from me as my own kids, and I was in so much pain. I was hurting. I mean, years. If I maybe about 5, 6 years ago was when I finally got over that part of it.
Wow.
When I got here now, connecting with back home, that wasn't happening. It wasn't just so easy where you took up the phone and called because of long distance charges. So you couldn't do that. Writing a letter, when you come here, you're not working. Where you get money to work? You're still a kid. You're just doing your thing, doing what you got to do.
Hmm.
But I've always wanted to reach out to them to tell them, oh, I feel, just to level my anger. But my brothers were still there.
Mm.
Then about 2 years later, my brothers came, and then life started for me, and I forget about these people.
So
I
you
just kept
just so you
moving
just
on.
forgot about them, moved
I just
on.
I just put them in the back of my mind. It was after I got saved, the Spirit of God started working on me, and I felt this compassion in my heart, but not to confront them. To be, I wanted to go back to tell them I forgave them.
Mm.
That's what I wanted to do. And let me tell you something: for all those who are taking care of people, kids, you don't treat them wrong because God gonna get you. One by one, each of my aunt's children did not die in a good manner.
Oh wow.
From dementia, dropped dead from heart attack, cancer in the throat,
Wow.
cancer in the breast, one breast cancer. Everyone, she just like that. Her husband dropped dead. Everyone,
Wow.
none of them, and it broke my heart because there was one of them that he was there for us, and I wanted to go back just to tell him, and didn't happen. He dropped dead. And then the last one who did the most evil, the worst out of all of them, he had dementia and then he had Alzheimer's.
Oh
Really bad.
wow.
He died
Whew.
miserable.
Wow.
Yeah.
I my friends, I'm talking to Minister Margaretta McCleary, and one of the reasons I like to talk to people on this program is that everybody's story is so uniquely different, and you never know what you're going to hear when you listen to somebody's story. I've never heard things like these. It's a good time for you to hit your share button and invite your friends to join us so that we can have this conversation, so you can be part of this conversation. I want to shout out to my friends who are watching on TikTok. I'm actually just screening my screen on my live here, but I'm live on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. But thank you for joining there. I can't really pay much attention, but you can listen to the conversation. But thank you for joining. All right. So now you are here. How did you relate that to your mom? Now that how did she react when you said I actually sent you a letter and it came back because I didn't know how to put a stamp on it? Did you tell her that?
It took me a while. I was just happy to be here to see my mom. I would give you a joke. Back home you watch TV and Beaver, leave it to Beaver. Good night, mom. And you get up and kiss the mom and everybody hugs. So when I got here, I said to my mom, good night, mom. I got up and kissed her. My mom's like, you know, it's I thought I saw that on TV. That's what you're
Oh
supposed to
wow.
do. Because
Oh.
to her, it's like, what? Because they're not used to that. But anyways, when I finally told my mom, it was hard. She could not handle it. Because at that point, the level of hurt that she feel because she trusted these people and she's thinking that they were doing good to her kids and they weren't, and nobody saw the initiative to reach out to her to tell her what was going on.
That's what I'm
And
thinking, that nobody knew, nobody could give an
no,
update.
and
And
nobody in the yard could do it. Nobody did it. They didn't see the need for it.
wow.
It was just the norm. You didn't have someone to defend you. They're not going to defend you. They're going to defend their own kids. They said, oh, you could never do that to mine. And that's as far as it goes. They're not going to step in to prevent it. So when I told my mom, it was really hard for her. And I think that's about 2 years later, my brothers came. But by then, they were afraid of my brothers.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I am here now, so they kind of know what I'm going to say.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, and my brothers now have they've now bonded tight together that they were ready to duke it out.
Hmm.
So my brother said when I left, things kind of changed
Okay.
with them.
Okay. Okay. Because they assume that a messenger is gone and she's going to be telling
Oh,
everybody, and then they're going to get some insight of what was happening here.
yes, yes.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing. That is amazing. So your life of a your life of abuse started
Young.
early, and okay, we're gonna get to the adult abuse. We see the childhood abuse, and we're gonna get to
Hmm.
the adult abuse. So tell me now, you get to Canada, you got to Canada, you're with your family. Where did your life go? How did your life take on a different shape or direction after you got here?
Okay, how I got to Canada is important. Let me go back. How I got to Canada. I had me a boyfriend in Jamaica. Now,
Okay,
listen to the boyfriend thing. In Jamaica, when you have a boyfriend, the boy look at you, you run, and that's good enough. You
look at
just
you and you
happy.
what?
It looks at you, you run, you laugh, and you got a boyfriend. You
Okay,
excited. That was me. So
okay,
that was the boyfriend I had. I was excited. Kiki, kiki, kiki. It was good because in your head they said if you let a boy look at you, you're getting pregnant. That's how stupid it was. If he
okay.
touches you, you're getting pregnant. So you
All
had that
right, yeah,
mentality.
yeah.
You look too hard, you might get pregnant. So you start running. That was my
Okay,
life.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right, all
So
right.
I said, okay, I got myself a boyfriend. He was a track star and everything. It was great. And, so one day I remember I went to school one morning again. I was on my way to school. They called me back. When they called, this is how God worked things out. They called me back to do something in the yard. So now I am the only person, everybody's going to school. And I was on the morning shift. So I'm walking to school. I went to a school called Norman Manley Secondary.
I know that
So I'm
one.
walking to school, and as I'm walking, I see a group of guys running towards me. And I'm not paying any attention to this. I'm not, what's going on here? And then these guys grabbed me and said, run. What am I running for? They just said, run. And they start to run with me. And there's a guy coming towards me, said he's going to kill me. I go home. I live behind a burglar bar. I don't know what's going on at nights. I don't get involved with stuff. And he said he's going to kill me. And I'm thinking, what is he? And they're saying, just run. And they had me, and he's coming close to me. So they ran into a yard, and they're running around a tree with me. And this guy's running around. And as he's running, I'm running around the tree. He lifted up his foot and he kicked me in the bottom of my stomach. And my feet just buckled. But the guys helped me, and I'm still want to know what's going on. So the guy who I was supposed to be had a boyfriend, apparently the school where I was located, based on the what is it, the socialists and the what do you call them,
Oh, okay, okay,
the
okay. I
political
know.
foolishness that was going
Okay,
on.
the
So
PNP
apparently
and the
he's from
JLP.
that.
Yeah, 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 yep, yep, yep.
I'm not a part of that. So the guy said he's going to kill me because he has a rift with the guy that was talking to me.
Hmm.
Well, this same guy that says he turned out to be one of Jamaica's biggest gunman, or whatever you call it. He eventually got killed. That's how vile this person is. Now he's waiting to me to come back because he's gonna get me. And within that time, I went home. That was when my aunt said to me, "You're not going back to school." And within a week, I left the country.
Okay.
That was God. I was supposed to be dead because
Wow.
he was waiting to kill me because he couldn't find the guy, and I had nothing to do with it. Just show me your friends that tell you who you are, kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So now I'm here
The
in
politics,
Canada.
the politics in Jamaica
The
was
politics in Jamaica,
kind
and
of
you're
that. Yeah,
innocent and you have
yeah,
no clue.
yeah.
So I'm in Canada, and I don't mind saying this. I was doing well, going to school, struggling, of course, because everything was just so different for me. Everything. Um, I pretty much came with zero knowledge of education because that was ripped from me. But they put me in school. I'm just doing my thing. And by the time I got to the age of 19 to 20, I got pregnant. I had me a boyfriend, and I got pregnant. And I say it this way: I had my school diploma my one hand. I had my baby thing in my mouth and a marriage
But
certificate in the other hand. So my hands, I'm fully loaded.
so yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah.
I had
You have
my
your
diploma in
high
my right hand.
diploma. You have the
I
birth
got a marriage
certificate.
license in the left and a baby birth certificate in my mouth. That was it. So one of the thing about me is that I'm coming from a place of a caregiver. So when my mom left, I was always taking care of my siblings. So when I come here, I meet this person. I got pregnant, I got married, I become a caregiver again.
Hmm.
And now here I am being married off because back in those days, you get pregnant. I was in the church with my mom, but I wasn't saved. He was kind of ish saved.
Ish.
Yeah, kind of ish shape, singing on the choir, kind of ish thing. And
Okay,
then
all
I
right,
showed
all
up,
right,
I think
all
they
right.
preach about me. They preach about me sometime, I don't know. But anyways, I showed up and things happened. I got pregnant, and you have to get married or else get out of my house. I don't know where to go. So we did get married. Two young people got married, and he was a really good person. No word of a lie. He came here when he was young, and all he knew was just to take care of Big Yamp. He's from the country, and he
Mm-hmm.
worked. Never went to school when he came here. He just worked. Really good guy. And we had our kids. We're doing okay. Then he cheated on me, and that broke my heart. I was really sad. I didn't know that could happen. It happened. He cheated on me, and that's I struggled with that. And then the family said, go back, fix it. Well, I go back, fix it. So while we're there, he went back, he did his work again, he continued working, and then he got laid off his work. And he's a man of pride. He used to take care of his family. That was
Mm-hmm.
all he knew. I was at home. I just graduated high school, and I'm getting on my having my second baby. And I remember I noticed his attitude started changing. Just change. He's not working anymore. I now started working. I'm doing work, doing about two or three jobs, cleaning toilets, doing whatever. I can't go to school now because he's not working. I can't go back. I can't go to college. So I'm doing my thing. And one day I came home and he was sitting in the back of the yard, and I would notice that he would sleep all day and he's gone all nights. And I'm like, what's going on? He was a bodybuilder and he got me into it. He was a bodybuilder, but now he's losing a lot of weight and he's
Mm-hmm.
just sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay. And he's kind of angry and pride, is mad. So then I noticed in the back of the yard, there's these guys coming and they're sitting down doing nothing. And one day I came in and my youngest son was sitting there, is crying. I wanted to go to the bank and I said, take care of me. These guys were sitting there and he wouldn't take the baby. So I went inside and I said, I'm not going to stay. I'm just going to the bank. And as I said that, I heard him say the word, don't push me. And as I walked in, I saw when he rushed at me, and he's a big guy. He was, as much as losing weight, and he grabbed at me, and I'm like, I can't fight you. And he said, don't push me. And I ran up the stairs, and he ran me and pulled me back down. He hit me, and I ran back up the stairs. And then the next thing I knew, I was on the ground and the house was in darkness. That's all I remember. When I
Really?
got up and I turned on the house was quiet. So when I went in the bedroom, the kids were on the sleeping, and the house was so dark. And I turned on the bathroom light, and the person I saw in the mirror, I don't know who she was. My face had so many bruises and different color.
So he
It
knocked
was
you out,
just
beat you up.
he beat me to pulp. I
Wow.
was just beaten to. I was my little. I was smaller than this, so I
Just
was
by
just
just by asking him to stay with the baby while you
a
went to the
baby.
bank.
Yeah. So when
His
I
own
then
baby.
yeah, yeah. So then I went. I heard a knock at the door, and I came downstairs, and they're like these same guys that were in the backyard while he was beating me. They got up and left, and then one came to the door and said, "Miss So and So." They never called me by my name because they never really know my name. They call me by his nickname. So Miss So and So, I'm so sorry for what happened, but this is how it went down. Apparently, he was smoking some ashish or something like that, and somebody put crack in it,
Oh,
and he started smoking at nights when he's going, and he got hooked.
okay,
He got
okay.
hooked in crack cocaine, and this is what was the results of his behavior.
Wow.
So when that happened, of course, I just got angry. I kicked him out. He left. He went off. Then he went home, and when he went home,
Where is
somebody
home?
Jamaica. He
So you
went back
went you
home to
went back
Jamaica
to
to
okay.
visit. He left. We broke up. He left, and while he was left, I went to college, and I went off, and I went to do nursing, and I couldn't take them people down around me, man. They just didn't seem to want to live. I'm like, I was dying like
They
that.
did.
I was just dying. I'm like, I
You
ain't
thought
pushing them.
they were dying off their own, that they just wanted to
Listen, man,
die.
they need to live. I was back. I'm like, I'm young, and you people just would not live. You're just dying like that. I'm like, now I'm not going any further. This is done for me.
So you
I
couldn't
like
you
that.
couldn't handle that.
I could not handle it. My heart couldn't do it. It was just sad. So, anyways, I left that, but I finished up anyways. I finished up the nurse's aid. That was easier for me. So I'm like,
Okay,
I'm good with
okay.
this one. Take your
So
old
so you
folks.
so
They're
you
better.
step you step down.
I stepped down. I couldn't go any further. I just said I stay right here, and I went there. So then he went home, and something transpired, and he was brought back to Canada. He came back to Canada. When he came back to Canada, he came back. We got back together. At this
Oh,
time
really?
now, yeah, I
Really?
I got my kids. Yeah, we came back together. But you gotta understand a woman, we're messed up like that. You're coming back, but you want to. I'm bringing you back because I want you to see who I am.
So you actually brought him back.
I brought him back, but I'm gonna tell you, I don't need you. I just want you to see who I am. That was just it. It's not that I want you there because I need you, buddy. You're just gonna see me. So when you come up in here and you're saying to me, "Can I do this for you?" No, I got this. And at that point, he looked at me and says, "You don't need me." I said, "No, I don't. I just want to let you to see who I am now." And that. This is how I start behaving myself. But I also had a plan because now I was still, even though he was back, there was a fear that I had that he's going to hit me again. There was this fear that it grips you. But I'm making a plan. How am I going to get out of this? How am I going to get out of this? I got two jobs,
So you brought him back because you want to get some form of closure.
some closure, but then the fear grips you. Though you have the closure now, it's like you realize this should never brought him back.
Yeah, I understand that.
And the fear gripped me so badly, but I had to come up with a plan. So what I did was I just got two jobs and opened my account and set up everything. Then I packed my kids. He's now fully decked in crack cocaine. He's
So
messed
he
up
came
even
back
more.
and got back into it again.
Messed up.
Oh,
He
wow.
wasn't delivered. He was still in it. He just kind of, he was never out of it.
Wow.
And I remember I took my kids and I left. He took me to the airport and I ran away for 6 months and went to Jamaica to live with my children. At this time,
Wow.
I had three babies now, and I ran
Wow.
away. This is the mentality that you have when you're just a messed up female, just going through life trying to
Wow.
figure it out yourself, but making more mess than you are. So I packed up and went home to Jamaica, ended it, left. He didn't even know I was gone for that long. Now, the only reason I came back, my son was old enough to go to school, and my friend says to me, my mom didn't know where I was. Nobody knew except one friend. She would send me money that I worked to take care of the kids. And she said, the government is looking for your son. He has to go to school.
Mm.
You need to come back. Not realizing that I was only a landed citizen. If I stayed any longer, I could not come back to
Oh,
Canada.
wow.
It was just in time for me to come back to Canada. So I came back and I'm doing my thing. And I said, I got to go back to my old house where he's still living. And when I got there and opened the door, it reeks. It was so nasty on the inside. And my girlfriend came with me, and I was upstairs and I was trying to clean it up. And he was sleeping, and he was so skinny. He was so tiny. At this point, I thought he had AIDS because it was back in them days. Now I
So
thought
how did I mean, we're not gonna labor on him, but how did he survive with just being hooked on?
I don't know. It's as if the crack had just taken him over. He totally did not know. I
Wow.
don't know how he survived, but I know one thing: he had 15 cats living in the house with him.
Wow.
So I went upstairs to get things, try to see if maybe I can get him out and fix it up. And he was sleeping, and he got up and he saw me, and he put his clothes on. He's coming downstairs, and he said, my girlfriend came upstairs and she said to me, "Let's get out of here now." And I heard him say the word, "Don't push me."
Again.
Trigger word. And I'm like, "What?" And my girlfriend said, "Let's get out of here now. Let's get out of here." And she got a hold of me and we went outside. And we got outside. I saw a guy and he says to me, "Margaret, what are you doing here?" He said, "Somebody's trying to find him." And they said, if they can't find him, they're going to
Oh.
find you
Oh,
and the
Lord
kids.
of mercy. Oh,
So
wow.
we got off, and I had a little vial that I found. And what I realized in the vial was crack. I didn't even know that was what it was at the time. And I had it on me because I saw in the closet and I took it out, just took off. So I went to the office. It was an housing. I went to the office and they were shocked to see me. They said they've been looking for me and they were concerned because they haven't seen me and my kids for 6 months. And my house was under investigation for a crack house.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
When I told them what I was going through, they hid me under the Battered Wife Act for 2 years.
Oh,
I wasn't
wow.
allowed to tell anybody where I was. The kids and I had to be in hiding.
So
Guilty.
that was the government, or does the
That was,
government
yeah,
protected you in a
in the just moved me out of the area complete with the kids. And one of the things they said I had to do, they said I had to clean the house, clean up the house before I leave. So I called his sister and she got him out. I moved a truck and get everything out of the garbage and took off. Never saw him. And years later, I got a letter. His mom was here and she wanted to see him. So I went to the neighborhood. He was living in a bus shelter
oh wow.
and he was skinny. He was just shaking. I broke my heart. And I told him his mom is here. She wants to see him. And he tell me, yeah, I'm going to see you. If I can just sell one more dime bag, I'm going to be okay. I'm watching this big, healthy man came down to nothing. That was in the church, nothing. And then after that happened, I heard that he got arrested
Mm.
and he got arrested for attempted, I think it was attempted murder, something like that. I'm not quite sure. But the person was supposed to go to court, end up killing himself. So eventually the government came up with a system called it was called zero tolerance. He was the first person to be deported, so he was deported back to the
Wow.
Caribbean. They shipped him
Wow.
over.
Wow.
Years later, I connected with him. I
Again?
told him, I
That's was
phone
it,
wise,
that's the
phone,
third
phone.
time?
No, no, no. This was different.
Okay.
Phone wise, and I said to him, you know what? I forgave you. I forgave you for all that you've done because I remember who you were.
Hmm.
And I know what it is that happened to bring you where you are and what happened. And you know what he said to me? He said to me it was the best thing that ever happened to him because he had a chance to come home and his mom died in his harm. And now he's taking care of his dad. And most of the guys that he hang with, they're dead,
Wow.
either between AIDS, gunshot, drug overdose. They're all gone. He got saved.
He got saved.
He got saved. He got saved. He got, I mean, saved where he got delivered out of that mess.
Hmm.
Now, my life on the other end didn't get any better. I was just a broken, messed up woman.
So
Just messed up.
how old were your kids now at this point when?
Now my children are all, I'd say nobody was in close to double digits. Nobody was in there, probably like probably make about Rocky would have been about 6 years old. Just ready to start school. So nobody was up in the 10 or anything like that. Because they were like 2 years apart. That was it.
Hmm.
But then I
Wow.
I got pregnant again. I this time just another pregnant. Things happened, man. Girl was like bad like anything else. I got pregnant, had me a daughter, and again, I was just living life just the way it is.
So where did your church life go?
There was none.
There was none. It hadn't
There was
started
none.
yet.
There was didn't start it yet. No,
Okay.
grew up
Okay.
didn't want nothing to do with it
Okay.
because church had left such a bitter taste in my mouth. My aunt is apostolic, and
Hmm.
every day she'll be at the gate fighting with the Jehovah Witness, fighting with the Mormons, fighting with everybody. It was just a consistent fight. They never seemed to get along. I didn't want to be a part of that mess. I just want to live my life. I don't want nothing to do with any of you
So
people.
with them being the abusers and the Christians, the
Mm-mm.
Christian abusers, I can imagine that those were not good examples for you to want to
No, they
follow.
were not. I wanted
Okay.
nothing to do with any of them. I didn't
Hmm.
want to do anything to do with my mom's fate because you're going to blame your parents for it. In spite, you still didn't understand. It's not that she deliberately did anything to you, but you felt abandoned. Let's be real. You're going to put some on your mom. At that point in my life, it's like, no, my childhood years were stolen from me. I was forced to be a mother to my siblings because the
Hmm.
people you gave the responsibility to did not hand that over to me. Did not. They didn't take care of it. They gave it to me. So I was a kid taking care of kids. Then as I come here, I became a mother taking care of kids again.
Hmm.
And that's just the life that I had. There was never a me. There was everybody else. There was not, I did not exist. Low self-esteem. Just didn't think
I
much.
was just going to be think I was just thinking in that direction because with all that happened, three young kids, that all of that life crumbled, and now maybe from a self-esteem standpoint, and maybe just desperate to find love, here you are with another child,
Yes.
Where did your life go after that now? Because now you have four children, and where
Yeah.
did your life go now? How did things change, up or down or continued?
Serious went into depression. I was depressed. I was just living, but I wasn't. I wasn't even alive. I was just existing, functioning. That was
Wow.
just my thing. I would find a little job here, find a little job there, try to live a facade. This is one thing. When you think you're so beautiful, you had that looks going for you. I made sure that nobody would get close enough to want to take advantage of that. Because, oh, you're so beautiful. No, 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 back it up. They call me the iron woman. I was cold because I was hurt so much. I was let down. Everything was just taken from me. I was just taking care of kids. My kids they said I wore my kids on my sleeve. They were like a protected thing for me. That was it. I
Hmm.
had no life. Didn't want
Wow.
church. Didn't want you. Party hardy. Had my male friends. I pick and choose who I want to pick and choose. That's just the life. I was just living my life, doing my thing.
So things were going wild during that time. All
Yes,
right.
there was a chaos
Uh,
in order.
where did the turnaround happen?
Okay, so the turnaround happened. Now, I was a bodybuilder. Yeah,
Okay, so
I
he
used to
left.
do
He left.
bodybuilding.
He left that with you.
Oh, yes. So I
Okay.
would gym, make sure I look good, and everything was happening. So one day I went to church to work, and someone said to me, "I'm going to invite you to my church," and I'm like, "Okay." What church do you go to? When he told me the name of the church, I realized it's a church that I used to go to when I was a kid. And then he says to me, "Oh," and he said, "I'm married to this person that used to be a Sunday school teacher. I used to the same church." So he invited me to this church, and I says, "Okay, I'll go." But when I went to the church, I had a plan. I had on the shortest of dress. I had heels up to here. And I wanted to see me, red dress. Lord, I was just decked out, big earring, everything red.
I think I heard you talk about
Oh
that
yeah,
red thing.
red.
Okay.
I was just gonna. You had to see me. And I walked up in that church, and they're like, "Oh, Margaret," and I said, "That was me. I look good, don't I?" And I sat down, and this young man got up to sing Amazing Grace. And while he was singing, the tears was rolling down my eyes. I won't get emotional. And it's coming down, and I just felt really weird in my body. And I'm trying to pull my clothes down because I felt naked. I felt like I wasn't covered. And no matter what I tried to do, there was no material to pull down. And the more I wiped, the tears were just flowing just from him singing Amazing Grace. And then I left. I left. I went home. My sister said, "Let's go to a party next door." I said,
Oh
"Sure,
wow.
why not?" So I went to the party, but
So
I put
the
on the
so the, so
nicest
the
dress.
devil was ready to erase what was happening
Oh
right there. He's
yeah,
ready
and
to
I
erase
was
it.
ready to give in to that. So I know how to dance. I didn't drink, but I know how to dance. I don't smoke. I don't know anything. I did good. And I got to the party and I was dancing like crazy. My sister came up to me and she says, "I didn't bring you upstage me. I brought you here just to be my company, my little sister." And as the music stopped and I stopped, I could feel there's these guys. I couldn't see them, but they were in the corner and they start grabbing my hand and says, "Come here, come here." And I'm pulling at me. But while they were doing it, I felt like I was standing in a bucket of worms. I felt things start crawling all over my entire body. And I start doing this, trying to get it off, but I couldn't. And I ran out of that place so fast.
Wow.
At this time, I was living with somebody, and he was an alcoholic.
Wow.
Never bothered me. He'd be drunk all the time, didn't bother me. But when I got home, after running home, he came home and he was sleeping. When I bust the door open and I smelled alcohol, my entire inside came up. I was
Wow.
sick on the inside. Things are crawling, something is happening on the inside. I just couldn't. I said, "Get up and get out." I kicked him out of the house. You can't stay here, get out. And he left. And I'm like, something is happening here. And now I felt a need to go to church. So he's gone and I'm going to church and I'm doing good. And I'm like, yeah, things is good. Whew. Then I decide I'm going to get baptized.
Hmm.
Then he showed up and he says to me, "I'm sorry for everything. I was supposed to get baptized." I remember the 28th of January, that particular year, I was going to get baptized. And then he came and he knelt down and says, "Will you marry me?" And I said, "Yes." Why did I say yes? In the church, the word was there was no man. And I would now be the perfect Christian woman, the perfect with a husband and a family. I would fit the mold of what Christianity would say. I'd be a married woman in church. So I put off the baptism and I decided I'm going to get married. So on the day of my wedding, the day before my wedding, he cursed me out.
Oh, dear
He,
Father.
yeah, he cursed me out. And I was crying, but I still went ahead. The day of the wedding, he was one. At this time, I could hear, but I didn't know the voice of the Lord. It's like saying, stop. But I couldn't, I was new. I was new in the faith. I wasn't baptized. I had nobody. And somebody said to me, didn't I hear something about darkness and light getting together? That's not good. And the person said to me, it's okay. God knows your heart. Go ahead and do it. That's what she had said to me. And I said, God bless her soul. Now she's passed on. And I says, okay. So my baptism was to be on the Sunday. I canceled my baptism, got married on the Saturday. He was 1 hour late. They left him at the house coming to the thing. I was standing there, where is this man? He was left. God is doing everything to stop. The wedding night, the bridesmaid, we didn't get to take any pictures. They all took their clothes off. I was bawling my eyes out. I catch a really bad cold. I was outside in the cold weather. The wedding night, the man cusses me out. I was in tears again. God, let me tell you, that night I started crying and I never stopped crying for about, I'd say about 10 years. I cried. I cried. I cried. And the marriage was a disaster.
Oh, my good
It
Lord.
was a disaster. He cheated on me. He cursed me out. And now I'm baptized, and they say to me, you can't get divorced. You have to stay in the marriage. And he cursed me out. I did. He walked and he told some lies, I can't even, the nastiness. No, I'm in church and I'm hearing these things and I can't do it. And I'm keeping it all in and I'm hurting. I'm so broken. There's this one woman of God. Her name is Minister Carol Blake. She was that person for me. And then I decided I needed to kill myself. The verbal abuse was so bad. It was so, when I tell you the stuff that he said to me, I cannot repeat it. He was in church.
Wow.
He was singing on choir, cheating with someone in the building with me. God revealed all of that. It's a long story without God revealed that. And I found that out. And it just went from bad to worse. I was broken. In my pregnancy, I was cursed out. I was, I was just, and I never stopped crying. I just cried. And then after my daughter was born, I was driving. I decided we're in school bus now, and I'm driving. I'm kind of cut it short because there's a whole lot more. And I heard a voice said, "Go over the bridge." And I was ready to put the bus over the bridge. I wanted to kill myself. I was about to die. This was it. I was done.
Wow.
And that's when I felt a hand rest on my shoulder and said, no, it's on my right shoulder and says, suicide will separate you from God. And I'm like, and I didn't care. I wasn't going. And I felt it again. And the squeeze said, suicide will separate you from God. And then the voice says to me, the road will not adjust to suit you. You must adjust to suit the road. And I
Wow.
started driving the bus on the edge of that bridge. I'm just doing it. But I was still hurting. I was still hurting. And then he would walk in the street and start telling people stuff about me, and I couldn't do nothing about it. It was my reputation. And then I'm not afraid to say it. I got up and I testified in the church one day. And he came to the church. I was on my way and I got a phone call. Don't come. He's here. And he said, if you come, he's going to stab you in your chest. He's going to kill you. And I said, oh, God. But I came anyway, and he was gone then. And this is what made me so angry. Someone said, while standing there crying in the parking lot, she said to me, you are wrong. This is somebody in position to go and tell the church your business, because the church now turned on me.
Hmm. Wow.
Because there's a thing in the church that man is so delicate. We need to keep them in the church. So you woman better suck it up, no matter what they do to you, and be okay. The one thing I realized, they don't know how to minister to the broken woman.
Mm,
They don't minister to the broken woman who's going through a situation while she decides to stay in the relationship, or the divorced woman who come out of the marriage and is still broken. The church don't know how to handle that woman. They would rather you just come in, sit down, be quiet. We got the man in the church, and that's good enough. We can have a man's choir, we can have a man's department, while the woman is totally broken. And that's how I was functioning as a broken woman.
I am at a loss. I'm at a loss to just to hear your story. I'm at a loss to try to understand for the duration of all those years from one thing to the other. I I I don't know. I don't know how you made it through that, but the only thing I can conclude, there must have been purpose somewhere.
Somewhere along the
There
line.
must have been purpose somewhere, and somehow God helped you to pull through. All right. When did something turn around? When did something get better? Where is a good side of your life? If there is, well, I gotta say, where is good side? So after the busting and the contemplation of bringing it to an end, where did you go? How did you reverse that? If I could use a question, and where did you make
After the
amends and how?
marriage ended, it I would love to say it turned around real quickly, but it didn't. I had a really good job, and my children, someone helped us. We were pretty much homeless. Someone helped us got a home to live in. Now with a single income coming in, the children I had to decide, do I pay the light or do I eat?
Mm,
Do I pay the rent? And this is all the life that we're living, going to McDonald's and taking your paper towel, going to Valley Village to buy clothes. This is how we're living now. And I had a really good job, but it's one income. And I was just so broken. How it started to turn around was this. A couple took me in by the name of Collington. Never met them. I went to a church and they met me and they took me in. Now, before they took me in, the doctor, I was sitting in my mom's house one day and a pain hit me in my heart. It's like I felt a pain and my heart was pounding really fast. I called my mom and she ran in and the kids were there. And she could see my heart going like this on my shirt. And she called my brother to take me to the doctor. So he rushed me to the hospital. And as I'm at the hospital with her and they see my heart going, they put the thing on my finger to check my heart and my heart would calm down. The minute they take it off, then I would hear a voice said to me, there's a picture on the wall. Go in the picture. You're going to be okay. That means I'm going to go crazy now.
wow.
And at that point, something happened. I came down from, say, a size 14 in less than a month to a size 5. The doctor's now checking me for AIDS. They're checking me for cancer. They just can't see the rapid deterioration that was going on. My hair fell out. The pigmentation of my face was just ripped off. I was like a walking dead. My mom had to assist me, totally devastated and broken. And what happened now, I remember when the Collington got a hold of me, because now I had to go back to work. My kids are living with my mom. I had to stay with them. And one night, the wife took me and she put me in front of a mirror. And she says, "Mar, you're a powerful, anointed woman of God." That's the word to me. And there was a big black, too dark mark in my face because I cried so much. It stained my face.
Mm,
And I went to bed that night and I was crying and I said, God, if you will replenish me and give me back my youthful appearance, I promise I'll serve you for the rest of my life and I will tell someone of you. I went to bed that night. I used to sleep on the floor because I didn't know where my children were. They weren't with me, so I slept on the floor. And I remember I woke up that morning and I saw, when you see the snake come out of your skin, I saw these things around me. Literally, my entire skin peeled right off.
Your
The
own,
things
your
in
own, your own skin.
my own skin. I asked the Lord. It literally happened where I was peeled right off. That was my second miracle that God did with me right away when I prayed that prayer. Then she started. She was in the faith, but she wasn't in the faith. She was there for 10 years, longer than I am, but she wasn't getting anything out of it. Then she started asking me questions about the Bible, and I didn't have the answers. So I would went out and I buy study Bibles and books, and I would sit down at night with the Bible spread around me and started reading the Word, getting the Word in me. Even though I'm still broken, and I remember this one scripture that came was from Philippians chapter 4, verse 4, I believe. Yes, rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice.
Hmm.
And it talks about, think about the things that are good, whatsoever things is good, whatsoever true. And he said, this is my word to you, think about these things. And I started
If
literally
anything,
hearing the
anything
voice
of
of
good
the Lord.
report, think of these things, right? Yeah.
And I keep hearing the voice of the Lord literally start speaking to me, telling me what I need to do, where am I going. But the one thing that God kept saying to me is that I have called you 3 times, and 3 times you have rejected me. And I had to go through this, and it wasn't over. And I went through more. I would love to tell you it turned around within 5 years later. It did not. About 15 years later, before the pieces start coming together, when God showed me something, he showed me this, that what I experienced did not started then. It started from before I was born. Sounds weird, doesn't it? The Lord showed me that the time when I was born, my mother was in the church. And my family is known. And when my mom got pregnant, there was not a joy. There was not an excitement. There was a sense of rejection. And I developed, when I was born, I born with rejection. I was rejected. So I would pick up man that would try to validate me. And when they rejected me and beat me, I would go back into depression. And I continue on that path. I just kept going, trying to find that fulfillment, depressed, just totally broken. One of the word that the doctor said, I have eye anxiety and depression. I would be driving and come out of my car in the middle of the road, can't breathe. I still have the pills. I didn't even take them because the doctor said these pills will make you come addicted, but then will give you something for the addiction.
Mm.
These are some of the stuff. I'm just kind of speeding up because there's so much to add to it. And it finally started coming to light when I started speaking of my experience. And he showed me this. I remember a vision I had. There was like a ark, like, the boat, the thing. And it was every time there was a little, what do you call it? Like little water was coming out of it. And I could see myself putting Band-Aid on it. But then as I keep doing that, then I notice in the dream, it explode. And I heard the voice of the Lord said, that's you. Every hurt and every pain that I experienced, I put it on the inside. Everything was just been buried on the inside. And the more I try to hide it and cover it, and how did I do it? By bringing another male, having another baby, doing this, but never having it been dealt with. Eventually, it exploded and almost took my life. I tried to jump over a bridge. Oh God, this is so much. But when I finally got to the place is when I surrendered completely to the Lord. And I didn't surrender so easily. It was a fight. I remember when I got baptized and I got saved and I got into church now and I'm here. There was still a stigma. There was still something about me that just didn't go right with church people. My marriage had fell apart. I got all them kids. They didn't see me of the smartest. So though they would pour into me, they would not allow me they wouldn't put me out there. I was held back. And I've always felt that way.
So that's the scars. That's the scars you had that others were using to determine.
Yes.
whether you were whether you met the criteria or your history was good enough to for you to even become anything worthwhile.
Yes, one person said this, and I didn't know I heard it back. And someone prominent says, "We don't want people like her around our daughters."
Wow.
It's like, oh. And another person said, I remember my daughter, they found something in my daughter bag that she had gotten from school, and when they saw it, they said like mother like daughter, she'll turn out just like her mother. My daughter's got her bachelor, she's doing great, she's going for a master's. And this is some of the words that they would use, but I would hear everything that they would say. I heard it and I never addressed it. I kept it in. And I tell you, this woman of God named Sister Carolyn Blake, she just kept me. God sent her in my life when I had no food. She was that person that God used to pour in my life. Because I remember one day I got up from the Collington's house and I was done with God. I was literally done with him. I was done. How how could you allow this to happen to me for all these years, God? And then I come into your house and surrender to your people and supposed to be taking care of me. And they're the worst group in the toilet. My kids heard them talking about me. These are
Wow.
church folks just nailing it in. And I remember I was on that bridge with that Bible in my hand. I said, I'm done with you. And as much as I wanted to jump over the bridge, I thought about my kids. So I walked to this church, and I sat down in front of the church with the Bible. And I put the Bible down and says, God, I'm done with you. I don't want you anymore. And as I got up to walk away, I felt a pain ripped me in my stomach. I saw a car drove up. It was the my friend's husband. He said, the Lord told me to come and get you.
Mm-mm-mm.
I hated man. I hated men, especially in ministry. They all look so pompous sitting up there in the pulpit, but you did the most damage to me. You used me. You didn't see me good enough. But a man was good for you, but the woman wasn't good. She was a hot mess. I was good enough to do everything else, but don't let her be seen. We need to control that. So all of that anger, I was there, and I'm holding up my hand, hallelujah, speaking in tongues, praising the Lord. But I was in bondage because of what? The church? Oh, Lord Jesus. Oh, boy. I've come to realize it's not about the church, it's about God. If I think about the church right now, nobody has seen me up in that place, but it's God.
Whew. I don't remember having a guest on my program where I am lost for word. Um, I I I don't know. I don't know. I'm I'm trying to digest this. I have never listened to a consistent story for almost a whole life duration of pain and struggle and rock bottom. I mean, it's only from rock bottom to a little bit above rock bottom. I mean, I'm waiting. I'm waiting desperately to hear where the good came in. Um, because and one of the reason one of the reason why this is so painful is the very unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in, that in God's plan in the in the early church, our Old Testament time, was that there was a city of refuge. There
Mm,
was a city of refuge, and if somebody did a crime or commit, I don't want to use the word, for media reasons, took someone's life for that matter, and or did something that was very heinous, and when the angel of death would come after him, if
yeah.
he could make it into the city of refuge before the what was it, the person's name again, who was responsible for the judgment and the execution of that, if he made it into the city of refuge, then he would have been protected. He would have been protected. And I consider the church to be the city of refuge in our time. It
Yes.
should be the city of refuge where you run to and you find safety and comfort, consolation. And it is unfortunate, it is very unfortunate that the church, in many instances, have not fulfilled that position of being a city of refuge to bring safety, healing, restoration, and all of that to a life like yours. And some of my friends who are here, including my wife, who are listening to this program, they can't wait to hear where in God's heaven did something good happen in your life, because this is beyond where one can digest it. All right, so give us give us a quick wrap up of the end of the pain. I mean, pain continues, I'm sure, because life is
Yes.
filled with pain. So it never gets sweet and dandy, but there
Mhm.
has to be a change. So tell us where the change come, and how much are you making out of the change? Because I heard you on the round table talking about even when ministry was birthed in you. Maybe that's what you're talking about now, that nobody thought you could have ministry, so nobody wanted to even consider you.
No, that's so true. It's again, they have their people, and I was not their people. And one day I took, I used to get up in the morning, drive the church bus. Now it's a 16-seater. I had my 5 children. I'm divorced. I'm the church bus driver. I had to take a bus from my house in the wintertime, then take the church bus, clean the snow off, put the gas in, go to church, go to my home, get the kids their breakfast, pick up the bus monitor, then pick up the kids for church, then pick up my children, take them to church, do the routine, park the bus at Sunday nights at the church, then take my kids, get off the bus, and walk it home. Because we had no money. I was
Wow.
burnt out. I
Wow.
was burnt out. I was really burnt out.
So even
I
now you're driving the church bus, and nobody even really care about you and your
no,
family.
nobody, nobody didn't care. Nobody. And so, well, we had to, I shouldn't say nobody, people you would like to in authority weren't. But
Okay.
God had sent me,
So the
He
common the
sent me
common
some,
people. Okay. All right.
yes, who came
Okay.
along. And so I went to my minister, my bishop one day, and I said, I need to take a month of sabbatical. I need to take some time off because I was just withered up. I just felt like nothing was happening. I was the person you would leave at night to work at the altar to pray the young person through intercessory prayer and deliverance and get filled. I was that person, and they would be gone, and there was a group of us. And so I was a person you would, but I didn't, God was using them to bring something out in me. But I was drained. I was just hurt. I was still broken. And I remember I walked into church one day and this woman of God said to me, the Lord said to ask you, why you walk in an eggshell? He said to walk upright and hold your head up. He's placed a calling on your life. And I went to my bishop and said, listen, I need to take a month off from driving. And he says, okay. But he was angry. So the Sunday I got a phone call and says, are you driving the bus anymore? I says, well, I'm off for a month. He says, no, you're not. The bishop said, you're not driving the bus anymore. He's taking you out of the ministry because I've been doing all this time, never get a break. And because I now want to do this, all right. So, anyways, I decided to go on a month with God, and I would live in a closet, a literal prayer closet. I lived in that closet. And one day I was there and I heard the voice of the Lord said, I want you to write a letter to your bishop. Tell him you're going to this particular church and you're going to do youth ministry for a year. And I thought I was just hearing things. And as I came out, I got a phone call from a minister. He says, Minister McCleary, I've been trying to reach you. He said, the Lord told me to tell you that to give your bishop a letter that you're coming to my church to work for a year. But I was like, I was screaming so hard. I didn't care about what you said. I was glad that I heard from God. God talking to me. And I was happy. So I got a phone call from the church, and the church said, you need to come to a members meeting right now. It's an emergency. So I got to the church and I'm sitting there. The Sunday school superintendent, she didn't want the position anymore. So they had to get one really quickly. And they're calling everybody and they're saying, no, we don't want it. We don't want it. And one person said, what about Sister Margaret? You gotta train her. Why don't you give her the position? They said, we'll take it under consideration. I said, it's okay, because God don't told me what he want with me. The Sunday now I came to church and they said, the bishop wants to see you. I walked in the office and he brought a young girl in and he said to her, so and so, I want to make you the Sunday school superintendent. And she says, I can't do it. I'm in college. And he looked at me and said, it's okay. I don't need to talk to you anymore, Margaret. I says, okay. Because God don't told me what he wanted with me. So I brought the letter to him and I handed him the letter and he was angry. He wasn't happy. I was leaving for that year. That's when it started happening.
Wow.
When I left from that ministry for that year, and I went, the Lord started his healing process on me. He started using me and working through me and started taking some things out of me. I realized in the time, Bishop, I think his name was Beeson. I think it's Beeson. I was hiding behind somebody and he called me up and he says to me, are you preaching? I says, no. Are you preaching? I said, no. Are you preaching? I said, no. What are you doing with the call of God on your life? How dare you? God has called you. And I kept saying, and then another minister said, called me up. He said, the place that you are at right now, they do not understand the anointing on your life. That is why they're fighting you. God did not call you to be there. Then I remember Vanessa Anderson, she called me, she says, you need to come here. And this is different churches I'm visiting now. I'm just searching. She says, hold up your hands. I hear the Lord say he's taking it to a next level. What you're hurting, you're going through, God's taking to a next level. And I'm just eating that up. So after I gave him the letter and I went there, and this bishop now, this other minister, he was here from the United States. He started using me and started talking to me, and the pain, the experiences, allowing me to preach, allow me to be responsible. I just see different things just start happening in my life spiritually. Don't get me wrong, I was still struggling.
So because that's a question I wanted to ask. Isn't there now confusion
Yes.
in all of this?
In all of that, they're still not dealing with the hurt and the broken woman from one extreme to the next. So now God is using me, but I call myself, I would say that I was a functional, dysfunctional person. That was my label for myself.
Mm,
A fun- Then I met Sister Carol, took me to counseling, a minister. And that's when the counseling session started. Now we start ministering to the physical woman,
mm,
start addressing my issue, start digging into some things, and start dealing with the rejection, start dealing with wanting the approval of everybody else, want to be recognized, looking for love, not getting it. Always feeling you're the less of the human being, you're the stupidest. You only have the looks, but you don't have nothing else. But in all of that, Bishop, I must tell you one thing. They forced me to get into the Word of God, to get to know God for myself. That's what happened to me while being ministered to by this man and been used now by this bishop, and finding a balance that though you are hurting and you're broken, God still got use for you. I was been told that I had no use. There was no purpose in you. You're no good. You got kids. You got kids. You got pregnant when you're too young. You got married young. You got divorced and you got married again. You're no good. And this is the journey I've been on. And I want to tell, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something funny. It's not over for me yet. It's not over because God is still working on me. He's not I sit right here. God is still doing a work in me. But in the midst of him working in me, he's using me to minister to others and seeing them getting delivered while I'm also getting delivered.
wow.
I love where I am now in Christ. I love who I spend most of my time alone in the word and on my knees and speaking to God and having God sending women into my life. and men and couples and married people, just sending them to me, and I can pour out myself into them and saying, hey, I was where you were one day, but look what the Lord has done. I'm not a millionaire. I remember I was going to Tyndale Bible Seminary, and I was studying, and I had to drop out of Tyndale because I couldn't afford to go. I had to feed my kids. I couldn't continue on. But in the midst of that, God just started pouring out his knowledge into me and start
Wow.
teaching me some things, as if God took me on for himself, because I couldn't take the pain of being hurt again.
The only thing I could conclude in this story, and we're not the end of it. The only thing I can conclude is that God had purpose,
It still does.
and in spite of, or despite of, all of those valleys and dark places, I don't know, because I'm thinking that your own thought process is that I have to bring this to an end. Maybe more than once you got to that point, which,
Yes.
which is human, because I know that even myself here, I'm waiting for the healing moment of your own life, because I'm almost feeling sick listening all of what
Still
you.
go. I would love to say to you, I am 100% healed. I can tell you this, I am still going through the healing process, but I am no longer broken.
Well,
I'm literally serious about that.
thank God for that. Thank God for
Not
that.
broken, but I'm
Thank God
still
for
going
that.
through the healing process.
Thank God.
I have learned to forgive those who have hurt me. I have learned to go back to the churches and still preach Holy Ghost down in that same ministries.
So, how did it go with the year? Did you do a year, or did you do less than a year? Did you do more than a year? Did you come back to the Ordained church, or you didn't? How did that go?
I did a year and I went back, and order, decency and order, protocol. I went back,
Okay, okay,
and I went
all
back
right.
to September, and I brought a letter, and I said, um, the Lord, another letter, I said, I would like to return because I felt the Spirit of God. The Lord is saying I had a work to continue doing. And when I handed to him,
So the same bishop was there then.
yeah, he didn't like that either. It didn't went over very well. It
Didn't
was
you know
really
well that you came back, or he was still angry that you went?
angry I left, because one of the things that was said, I was his baby. More was poured out into me than anybody else.
Hmm.
And so they don't want to let you go, but you
So
have to
hold
let
a
me
second.
go.
Let me get something. He said you were his baby because it poured so much into
No,
you.
the word that we're spoken at, like
Oh,
said,
okay,
pastor's pet.
okay,
I want to
okay,
say
okay,
pastor's pet,
okay,
like kind of a thing. I was not the person who's going to give you trouble. I am
okay.
that person who will listen to do. But there's a call on my life, and you can't keep me, God. You want a baby? I was your Joseph, but you can't keep your Joseph. You gotta let your Joseph go. And they didn't want to do that. So when I went back and said it, it didn't went over really well. It was really bad. I can't even get in how bad it was, because I still love my daddy. He's my spiritual dad. And someone said to me, sis, she said to me, listen, you need to just come back and let peace be. And as I walked outside, a woman came around the corner in a daze. She was never in office when this meeting happened that Sunday. And she said, remember the young prophet and the old prophet. And she turned around and walked away, and I felt shivers came over me. And I said, hey, I'm out of here. I'm so gone. And I've been at this location
So
for the
you left.
longest
So
of
you left.
time.
You left. No, you came back,
I
but you
left.
left.
I left, and then I was there for a while, and now I'm in ministry, and I'm working and going through a lot of stuff there too, but standing strong, a little better now. And I remember one particular night we were having a convention, and something happened, and I said, after this is over, I'm not gonna go through another craziness again. I'm gonna walk away from this ministry also. I'm gonna go somewhere else. I'm done. And I was sitting at a convention, and I heard the Spirit of God said, time to take membership. I'm like, the devil is a liar. I ain't taking no membership up in this place. I'm done. And the Spirit of God said, time to take membership. Then the minister's preacher said, somebody here, the Lord is saying it's for you the time to take the membership. So then I pulled my membership from my church, and I've been at this ministry now for the past 15 years. But there's a story to that one. And this is what I have done. I have now allowed this ministry to become a place where I hide.
You allow this ministry to become a place where you
Become a
hide.
place where you hide.
So
Sounds weird, doesn't it?
okay. So you know that God has given you a ministry. You had the prophetic declaration. You accepted it. You get this word that the anointing is on your life. There's
I was
something that God
ordained an
wants to use you
evangelist.
for.
Yeah.
You get a word that you need to take membership here, and you accepted that. You took the membership, but then you're in hiding.
That's what I did. That's what I was doing. I was hiding. It's a place now where I'm safe. I can preach at this little place and I'm okay. I can teach Sunday school. I'm okay. Nobody was going to touch me. But then this other minister said, no, I'm not going to let you do that. Then he started to pull me and I started doing conventions here and convention there. And then the Lord started releasing me to share my story. And I had a meeting. It's called Woman of Passion, God Princesses, the Naked Truth. And I told my story. There's one story I have not told you, and I'm going to share it before I leave here. And there's a reason why the Spirit of God's allowed me. I have no shame. I've been delivered. And when I was finished sharing this particular story, the um the woman, they fell on the ground in tears. They could not believe so many women in the church were has gone through what I experienced and was hurting so badly. And I couldn't believe what I saw. There was a conference that I had, and it just broke my heart that there were so many hurting women that was going. So one of this story before we go, I'm gonna share, and I want all these ladies to hear it here. When I was about 18, I got pregnant and I had an abortion. Yeah, I did the ultimate. I was saved, and I coming from Jamaica, you're so ignorant. I had no clue. But one of my friends, she got pregnant. She goes, "I had an abortion. You can do that too." I'm like, oh, okay. So I went ahead and I did, and I was good. And one day I was standing in my classroom. I majored in auto mechanics, by the way. And I was
Really?
standing there. Yeah, I was the only girl in auto mechanics. Because I grew
No,
up around
no
it.
wonder you're driving bus afterward. Eventually, you're driving big bus.
Yes. And I was standing in the classroom, and all of a sudden I see a gush. It's kind of brutal what I'm about to say. A gush of blood came on the floor, and my teacher was a Jamaican man. And when I saw it, I ran out of the room, and I saw when they dropped the paper on the ground, and he said, "Everybody get out of my classroom." And then he got some other guys to do whatever. And I ran all the way home, and I got in bed, and I was laying there. I was in pain. My mom never knew anything. And then she had to call the ambulance because I couldn't walk. And they took me to the hospital. I was just in severe pain. And then the doctor came in. The doctor says to me, he goes, "Is there anything you want to tell us?" I says, "No, I don't know what's going on. I'm okay because I'm good. I did my deed. I'm all good." He says, "Okay, we're gonna run some tests." So they run some tests, and they took me out of the room and took me in another room. The window was in the ceiling. No word of a lie. Just about 4 chairs. Doctor, nurse, me. Then he says to me, "You're pregnant." Who, me? I didn't do nothing. From the last time that madness happened, I took care of I'm good. No. He says, "No, no, you're pregnant." I says, "No, I'm not." He says, I said, "No, I am not." He says, "How are you so sure?" I told him what I did. He says, "Really? Well, let's go see what's going on." Well, they did. Now, this is the part I will never, and I wish this going, I'll never accept that abortion is good. What did they found? And he gave me a grim description of what they did. He said while they were doing it, they ripped the fetus from you and left particles within you.
Hmm.
So there's the particles of this child is in me.
Wow.
And that almost killed me. They had to go in and do surgery and did all they had to do, clean me up, do whatever. That left such a scar in no matter how many kids I had, no matter how many children I had,
Wow.
the guilt I felt. I was a murderer. I
Wow.
was an I was an adulteress. I was just messed up. I was just rejected. I was just a hot mess. That I was done. And I was sitting. when the war in Kuwait, I remember I was in tears and I picked up the phone and called 100 Uncle Street and they prayed for me. Every baby I saw on the street, I said that was him. But I never had closure. When they prayed for me, I felt a little bit I said, okay, I'm good. I'm all right now. And I'm going on and things seems to be okay. But I would still have these thoughts in my head that I murdered a child. I was wicked. I needed to die. I was evil. How could I have done this? And this thing just ripped me. Every year I would go through the same thing. And then when I had my fourth child, I went and have surgery for my baby, and the doctor cut off a piece of my bladder,
Mm-mm-mm.
cut it off, and I thought I deserved that too.
Wow.
I remember that night I was laying on my bed and I'm crying out to God. I didn't wasn't going to church then. I was just crying out to God. The pain was so severe. The bladder is gone. It's pumping blood. I'm in so much pain. And I remember I cried out, and as I was crying out to God, I felt like when in sleep, and I mean, I was just bleeding so badly. And a present walked in my room, and this presence that walked in my room, I saw the hand extended and picked me up, and I stood up. And when I stood up, I saw my body laying on the bed, and a finger pointed, and I could see my blood vessel, and I could see everything, and it pointed directly to my bladder. And when it did, the hand just kind of left, and I jumped up and I fell back asleep. The next morning, I woke up, went to my mom. It was Christmas Day. Went to my mom, and as I went to use the bathroom, I felt no pain. I was healed instantly. I was healed. God reminded me of all that, and He says to me, I was there with you all the time.
Wow.
I was there. My last word of abuse, about 70, no, 10 years ago, I had a place I was living in. Somebody came in, needed a place to stay. And I says, okay, you can have this room. It's a gentleman, and he was using that room. And I said, you know what? You need to leave. And I remember the day he came in. I think I thought came to get his things out of my place, and I locked my door in my bedroom, and he kicked it off. When he kicked it off, he bust into my room, and he grabbed me in my throat, and he started strangling me. I'm a Christian now. I'm in church doing my thing. I'm preaching, teaching. I just gave you a place to stay because you have nowhere to go. And he started strangling me, and I'm trying to fight. And then he pushed me in the closet, and I fell. And then I picked up this huge thing to hit him, and he hit it on my hand. It fell on the ground, and he pushed me, and I fell again on the bed. And I was like, and then he left. He left, and I was just so angry. I says, God, how could you let this happen to me? And my Lord said to me, I said, why weren't you there? I was doing your work. I was taking care of this person. And he says to me, I was there all the time. And he says, when he pushed you in the closet, I cushioned your fall so you didn't break your back. When he put his arm around your neck to strangle you, I covered it so he didn't kill you. And
Wow.
when he pushed you on the bed, I shift your neck so you didn't break it. I have a plan for you. My disobedience have put me in so many danger. My disobedience, my not walking the will of God has put me in so many disobedience. I no longer do that. I'm past that stage now. But I'm only trying to say that
Do you
my
do
life
you
has
do
been hard.
you do you blame yourself for any of the experiences? You say, if I
Yes,
had done differently?
yes.
I want to let me address that for this moment. Do you The reason you blame yourself, um do you think that God has forgiven you or hasn't forgiven you?
He has forgiven me.
Okay.
He has
So
forgiven me.
you believe that he has forgiven you. You accept that. Ha-
God has forgiven me.
have you
I
forgiven
have for,
yourself?
it took me a while, but I have forgiven myself.
Okay.
I have.
Okay.
I was stuck in that place. I was stuck in that place for a long time. But No, I am forgiven and God has forgiven me. When the devil come whispering, I shut him down. I shut
Okay.
him down. He doesn't have, there's no story the enemy can bring to me now to hold me down. Nothing. I'm at the place in my life right now. Um, One of my mother once, a mother in my church said, "You have one foot in a banana skin and one foot in the grave.
Just
Sooner or
one
later, you're
slip.
gonna
Was
go
one slip you go in?
one slip away. Sooner or later, you're gonna go down." So I'm
uh,
at the place where, you know what? If I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna rise up with God. So I refuse to stay. So there is nothing. You can't do nothing to me to make me hate you. You can't do nothing. You can't say nothing to me to make me stop talking to you. When I tell you that, because the road that I've gone on, the bitterness that I should have in my heart towards certain people right now, I should not be sitting here talking to you or calling upon God. God has delivered me and has been there for me for so. After my story, I haven't told you yet. This is
we
just a brief,
I
and there's
I
no time to tell you.
I am going to I am definitely going to invite you back. I really, I'm gonna invite you back on on this program because I think your story is beyond human comprehension. I don't know. I don't know. I and I'm at loss for word really, and that's not normal for me. But I've listened to you. I barely said anything. I allow you to share your story, and I I had no clue. I had no clue. I heard you talk a little bit on the roundtable, as I said, and that's what piqued my interest to try to get you to come on my program. But I had no clue what I was going to be getting. So I'm at a loss, just like listening to this. Where is the end? Where is the end? It's like it's a forever journey that has no end.
No end.
And and I thought of driving on the highway. You can see miles down the road, and it appears like the road closed in the distance. But the more you keep going, the more the road keep on opening up,
You know what
and it
I
seems
feel
like
like, Bishop?
that's what your story is.
You know what I feel like? This is something that I asked the Lord, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel as if the person that I am, God has to keep me certain place in my life, because if He doesn't keep me tight, I can fall away. So just when I think the season have come where, oh, something else showed up and I overcome it again. And then I get a, and then something, and I overcome, but it keeps me so close to Him that I'm okay. I'm not looking for the other shoe to drop. I'm not saying what's next, Lord. No, I don't think like that. I just keep going and I just keep going. And as they come along, I live at a place. I want to tell you where I live. It's called Nice City. I live in this place called, I have to stay on my knees
Um,
24/7. That's just the life that I live
may
now.
God may God bless you and give you covering. But and I'm thinking that the humanity or the human nature. Do you think that you are more vulnerable emotionally or more vulnerable spiritually? Where do you think you are?
Emotionally, no, I'm not more vulnerable. No, I am very stern in that sense. Spiritually, I am very guarded. I'm very guarded because, yeah, I think I, I was at a church working as a youth minister when I ran away from my last church, and this famous singer right now, she's very famous. She was on the red carpet. I met her aunt, and she came to me and she said, she'd like to hear my story. That was years ago. I said, you need to speak to the minister that I'm working with. And she went in his office and came out and never looked at me again. Whatever he said to her, he came to me and he said, who are you? He said, I was praying and the Lord showed me you and there was fire around you. Who are you? And he did everything to try to destroy me. So I'm very guarded because I think spiritually, yeah, I don't trust my ministry or my life when it comes to my spiritual life. In I would not, even when you had asked me, that was a struggle. I told you, I was just praying, and the Lord said to me, "It's okay. You can do it. You're safe." And I says, "Okay, Lord." Or you, I would not even answer the phone to you again. That's me until the Spirit of God said, "Yeah, you're okay. You're safe." Because I've gone through so much in the church, the place, and I see ministers as shepherd, but I also see them as wolf. And I'm not saying I used to. I still see you like that. So I'm very guarded when it comes to my spiritual life, very protective. But when it comes to my personal life, I'll bring you down. Don't mess with me. Don't
So
mess with me.
you're still begging for grace to, for on the
Yeah,
natural life,
I'm gonna
begging
deal
for
with you.
grace to.
I ain't swearing, I ain't cussing, I ain't doing nothing, but I'm gonna deal with you. I'm gonna turn my plate down for you if I have to. 40 days, 40 nights. I'm gonna deal with your case. Don't play with me. I'm done. That's just
How
that's the way it
how
is.
how are your children? How are your children? How old are your children now, and how are they doing?
If I tell my children age, you gotta know how old I am.
No, no, no.
Okay.
'Cause you
It's
didn't tell me
okay,
when
that's fine.
you
My
didn't tell
eldest
me when
son
you had
is
the first one.
40 years old.
Your eldest son is what?
He's 40 years old.
Oh wow.
And my
Oh, you
other
must
son,
you have that one when you were 5 or 10.
oh, but he's 40. My other son will be 40 soon. He's a well, 30. Yeah, he's gonna be 40 next year. My other daughter, she's 38. One is 36, and my youngest is 26. I got 8 grandchildren. My eldest
Oh,
grandson is
woo.
18. Yeah, so I
Oh
got some
wow.
grown people. Yeah, I got
Oh
some
my
grown
good Lord.
people. Yeah, yeah.
You've done well you've done well in the midst of these struggles. You've done well. Wow.
God has been good. God has been so good to me. He's
Wow.
been so good to me. He's been so good. I'm in love with the Lord. I am so in love with him.
I'm gonna have to I'm good well, my personal invitation for you to come back to talk about the ministry part of your story,
Yes.
because we've talked about the struggles, and my goodness, I know we get the condensed part of it, because nobody could give you the whole story of their struggle, but the amount that you have shared is beyond what I think anybody could be prepared to hear. I don't know if the people who even knew you growing up get a full dose of this story that I've heard here tonight. And all of those who are listening are
But I
at a
want to share
loss.
this
I
with you
think never story.
before we go. Please. I'm not a
No, you.
superwoman. Um, I learned something about Lord Jesus when he was here. He had a group of people that he walked with. And so I have a group of ladies that walk with me, that praise me through. I'm allowed to get naked and real in front of them. I'm allowed to be me, like Sister Dorothy Homer and Carol Blake and Jasmine Campbell and all these. God has just allowed me just to let it go. Now I no longer keep it inside. It gives me a balance that when I'm hurting, I just call you, Eulalie Smith. I call them up, and there's about 7 of them, and they say, "Listen to me, you can do it. You're strong. God is with you. I'm praying for you." The Lord, one called me, she says, "The Lord, I was told to pray for you. A man showed up in my dream and said, if I prayed for you, he's gonna cut my neck my throat with a knife." She says, "I'm gonna pray for you still, because the devil is that." And I allow myself to be vulnerable now. I don't walk as a superwoman, and I have these people that come alongside me and pray me up, and I'm allowed to be Margaret. I'm allowed to cry and bawl and get ugly. I'm allowed to do that. Before that, I was just a facade, pretense. Nobody to talk to. Not anymore.
I am agreeing with Genevieve Dove here. Is if I get her, Genevieve Dove, that everybody should share this program. Everybody who has any following should share this program on whatever platform you have. Just share it to 10, 15 people. Just share it. Tag a few people with this, because oh my God. Again, one of the reasons I like to hear people's story. Not that I get the kicks out of it, but I know it ministers to people in so many ways. Not just that people sympathize, empathize, but it ministers to people, because sometimes there are people who are going through some of the same things, and
Yes.
feel hopeless.
especially
Oh,
ones in the
okay,
church,
okay. That's you. That's you. All right. That's all right. God bless you, Sister T. God bless
especially
you. Good to
women in the
see you.
church is the one that I hurt for. They gotta pretend, like not allowed just to be real. Come on, like what's I went to preach one day and I was so in so much pain and I said I'm not doing an altar call today. I need to be prayed for. And I went down on my knees and I after finished preaching and I'm there and they're praying for me and I hear screaming. When I got up and looked, there are ladies that are on the ground just weeping. You know what they said to me when they got up? Thank you. Thank you for being real.
That's
Because we were
exactly the
hurting. Because
story.
when we
That's it.
see you up there, we don't see the real you. They're hurting.
That's my point. That's exactly my point. People see you in ministry and they identify or they associate you with this on this pedestal. They put you up and they see all this glorious thing, but behind the scene, one of my favorite verse or song in there were 90 and 9 that were safely led. And one of my favorite verses, none of the ransom ever knew how deep were the waters crossed. Now how
Mhm.
dark was the night when the Lord passed through to find his sheep that was lost. And so when people see you coming with the message and the sermon and the manifestation, the spiritual operation, they all that they see is this glorious thing,
Yes.
but and they can't put you in the position where you have been through what you've been through. So being human and sharing those stories openly really does a lot for people who are struggling or who may struggle, and people who have been through things and get to a cul-de-sac in their lives and don't feel like they can move forward.
Forward.
They have been paralyzed mentally, emotionally, they have been paralyzed because they can't get beyond that. To hear your story. Although the struggle continues or the healing process continues, but there is hope and there
There
is
is
light
hope.
at the end of
There
the
is
tunnel.
hope.
And
There
and,
is
and
hope.
that would inspire somebody to say, hey, it's not over.
Yes.
It is not over. You have not seen the end.
No, it's not over. And it's a journey that I am on that I am excited to see what God has in store for me. Like at my age, I won't go say my age, of course, but at my age, I used to think that when I
It's,
get to a certain
they,
age,
they
that's
say
it.
they say it's just a number. You
Yeah,
can
that's right. But
you
I
can
ain't
jump.
telling you to live, I ain't telling
That's
nobody
okay.
to live in that calendar.
You can jump and shout. You can jump and shout about whatever age you are, because if you have a son at 40 years old, you can jump and shout at whatever age you are.
Yeah.
Because you
But I, again,
in
there,
the
yeah,
circumstances and what you've been through, somebody will say you're built for this only by
yeah.
God's grace. Amazing.
Well, I tell you, boy, I'd build a different direction because it's like I'm waiting for this cocoon. Like I feel like I'm in a cocoon and it's going to happen soon. I'm just waiting for it to happen. I was talking to the Lord today and I was just like, I'm waiting.
Optimism and hopefulness keeps you going.
Yeah.
Optimism and hopefulness keeps you going. It gives you a reason to
Hmm.
go into the next day.
Yes.
It gives you a reason to look forward to something.
Yes.
Optimism and hope. If you can
Amen.
keep those two, you will do well. When people don't continue is when they are pessimistic, there's no optimism,
There's none.
and
That's right.
everything seem hopeless. And your testimony tells me you had a couple of those points or moments in your life where it was hopeless and it
Yes.
was pessimistic, and but somehow through the long, and I said this to people sometimes, some, weeping, Jesus, the Bible said that weeping endure for the night, but weeping may endure
Yeah.
for the night, but joy
Joy.
comes in the
Joy
morning.
must come in the
That's a
morning.
guarantee.
Yes.
Weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the
In
morning.
the morning.
And I remind people that some people's night may be longer than others,
Yeah.
depending on where your location is. Your night may be longer. I think some people in Alaska, they maybe have 16 hours of darkness, up in Alaska at some time of the year. So it depends on where you are in your own life. Your night may be longer than other people's night, but guarantee this, that joy comes in the morning.
Oh,
And
yes.
that's what God guarantees. Um, I I am amazed. I am amazed, and I'm sure everybody who's listening is amazed that one human being, could have gone through all that you went through and are still here to tell the story and to still give God glory.
Oh, yes.
When I put on the flyer that she has a gripping story, I had no clue. I had no clue. Gripping was an understatement, and I thought that was a really emphatic word. But now I realize gripping is an understatement. I need to up my vocabulary to find something. I think back in Jamaica, your grandparents used to say gut wrenching.
Gut wrenching.
Gut wrenching. So I think that's deeper than gripping. That is gut wrenching. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you for really taking the time to share some of your story. And I don't know where this will go, but I'm guaranteeing that it's gonna impact somebody's life. Somebody's gonna listen, and somebody's gonna share it, and somebody else is gonna hear it, and and God is gonna use it as a tool of restoration and healing for somebody.
Yes. Yes.
Because somebody say, well, listen, if she been through all of that and still giving God glory,
Oh,
I better get myself together and run on and run on and be thankful. You are amazing. I'm going to give you the last word. I'm going to give you the last word. And I'm going to welcome you to come back another time and tell us
okay.
where ministry is, and what are the ministerial experiences that you have had, and how the healing process is developing more and more.
Yes. Well, my word, when I'd say my last word to everyone, hopefully not my last word, but it's that no matter what we go through in life, always remember that the word of God that says He has a plan for you. He has a plan for you. One of my favorite scriptures is the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And the day I said yes to the Lord, that's when I see that every step that I take and everything that I've gone through, even when I've taken the wrong step, God is saying, I'm going to turn it around for my glory.
Mm,
And I've experienced so many, like I said, I'd wish to sit here and tell all of you, this is how it happened. Yeah, I can't do that. But I know that in that step that I am right now, I'm in the will and I'm walking in the footstep of God, and He's got a plan for my life. So whatever you're going through in life, don't give up. Do not give up, because God has got your story, and He's going to turn it around for His glory.
mm,
No matter what. You know, some of the scriptures that I hold on to, that the harms of flesh will fail me. So
mm,
when I come amongst man, they're going to fail me, and I'm okay with that. And God told me that they're going to fail me. So it doesn't hurt me when you fail me anymore. It used to. No, it doesn't. Because God said you're going to do it. But God says, I'll never fail you. People going to leave you, family, friends. But God says, I'm going to be with you always, even unto the end.
mm,
So I want to encourage you today that whatever you're going through right now, know this, that God is going to work it out for your good. He's going to turn it around. Because Margaret McCleary, you see right here, I'm just a mama. I'm just another woman. That's all I am. I'm a wife. That's all I do. But I am God's anointed. He's taken this mess and has turned into a messenger. One last thing, and then I go. When I was driving that bus and I was going on that bridge and I wanted to kill myself, and I heard the Spirit of God told me that if you do that, you're not going to come in my presence. You're done. You're dead. That's it. The Bible says nothing can separate us from the love of God, but the Word of God tells us that we can be separated from His presence. So suicide is not an option. But the one thing He said about that, then He said the road will not adjust to suit you.
mhm,
Years later, when I was preaching, the Spirit of God came back and brought me to that same place and said, the road will not adjust to suit you. He says this, life will not adjust to suit you. You must adjust to suit life. So no matter what comes your way, just adjust. Just adjust yourself. If somebody throw it at you, lean over in the hand of God. If somebody's just adjust, but don't just stand there and take the hit and saying, God, this is good. I'm dead. Adjust. And that's what I had to learn to do. I had to adjust to learn to physical abuse, gone through sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, being homeless, all of that. I had to learn to adjust. So don't give up, because God is never going to give up on you. God bless you all.
Whew. My friends, I know I don't have to hear from you. I just know where your minds are. I see the postings and stuff like that. I want to thank Minister Margaretta McCleary for sharing this gut wrenching story with us, and at the same time, it proves God's faithfulness at the same time,
Yes.
because He didn't allow you to go under. He didn't allow you to go under. You've been down,
Amen.
a number of times, and you could have been out. You could have been
Yes.
out, but for some reason, God didn't allow you to go out, because there is still purpose. And as I said to some of my guests, depending on where their story is coming from, where it goes, and whether the Lord just done it in my mind to say to them, and I'm going to say to you, and I finished that. He said, one of these days, and this is so appropriate for you. One of these days, God will unveil to you the mystery of your history.
Oh,
You're talking it right now, and you're looking back, and you can see pieces falling in place. But one of these days, God's gonna really unveil to you the mystery
oh, what a
of
day that
your
would
history.
be.
He's gonna tell you the whys. He's gonna show you the reasons behind it. It doesn't make any sense right now. It doesn't make any sense right now. But one of these days, when the pieces are all come together, He's gonna show you them by piece in the puzzle,
Yes.
and you're gonna say, "Yes, Lord. This is why you are God.
Yes.
This is why you are the amazing God. This is why we call you awesome. This is why we call you
Yes.
mighty. This is why we call you omnipotent, omniscient. This is why we call you Jehovah Jireh. This is why we call you Shalom. This is why
Hey.
we echo you, because of the quality you possess and how you can see our journey, past, present, and future. And I have a little ebook on Amazon that is called "Don't Judge Me by My Scars or Hold Me Hostage to My Past." I'm rewriting
Hmm.
that now into hardcover. I'm rewriting, and I'm really pouring into it now in a hardcover, because this your story are reasons why I really want to write this book, and many more stories. So may God bless you. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you
your
so
story.
much.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you
And
for inviting me.
you're not late to share, because this is going to be there, available on Facebook, available on YouTube, available on Twitter, and I did stream a lot of it on TikTok as well. My friends, if you were in were which what word was it? If you were engulfed or grabbed by the story, I hope you share it with your friends. Somebody you know, or somebody you don't know might be blessed by it, and you, by sharing this, might be the cause of somebody's survival. You might save somebody's life by sharing this story. The Lord bless you, my friend. It was a pleasure to meet you.
It's a
You're gonna
pleasure
stay
meeting
you
you.
you stay right there. I'll talk to you offline after I
Okay.
say goodbye. My friends, God bless you. Thank you for hanging there with us. Thank you for
God bless you,
hearing
everyone.
your
Night.
story, and please share it and be blessed. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Next week, I have somebody whose story is not like this one. I have a bishop with me next week, but he has a unique ministry of compiling declarations, and his giftedness, and I am so amazed at his ability to compile declarations. Some of us are just gifted for different reasons. So join me next week as I talk to Bishop Miners from Bermuda. Is going to be on the program next week. I look forward to seeing you. Until then, peace be unto you. Take care of yourselves. Be strong. be courageous, be good, and if you can be good, be careful. God bless you. Have a good night.
God bless you all. Good night.
Well, thank you for checking in on ORB Ministries. I trust that you will share with your friends, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and stay tuned because you never know what's next or who will join the conversation.